Hey, so now that we've done all that background work, all that foundational work, we can actually start to make a rough cut of our little 40-second video. How do we do that? Or what is the best way or the fastest way that I've found of doing that in DaVinci Resolve? Well, in DaVinci Resolve, there's the cut page and the edit page. A lot of editors completely ignore the cut page. I actually spent the time finding out exactly how it worked. And before this beta version, I used to use the cut page to cut my first rough outline for the video. Now, in this version, they've introduced a thing called the source tape viewer into the edit page, which previously only existed in the cut page. And I've now started to cut my first rough cut in the edit page using this source tape viewer, because it works exactly the same in edit as it did in cut. So how does it work? Well, notice that I'm on the master bin here. Press the source tape viewer and it's now giving me a preview of every media file contained underneath that master folder. Now remember that I popped all of our Newstead House clips into this Newstead House bin, so it stands to reason that if you click on that bin, you get all the footage associated with that particular shoot yesterday. And because we did all that foundational work on bringing it in, ordering it, renaming it, it's all in sequential order. So that's got to make it a lot easier to start ripping pieces out of this and building a nice little first cut timeline. Now, there is one exception to my filming. I didn't, in my filming plan, I hadn't got something about where people would park, and I've picked that up on the day. So I filmed at our car parked in a street close by, so I could say to people, look, you know, if you don't want to fancy the chances of arriving there and there's no parking, because it's a bit limited at this location, at this Newstead house, this is about the closest that you can park to it. I didn't get that at the beginning, so I had to get it as we were walking towards the car. I was making sure when I was filming there was nothing coming down the road, because I'll want to, in the editor, I'll want to reverse this footage so that it looks as though I'm walking away from the car at the very beginning and saying, hey, this is where you can park. So I'm just going to grab this little bit of footage, I'm going to set it up, I just got my mouse there, and I'm going to use the standard, the J, K and L keys to scrub through the footage. So the L key then is just playing the footage at normal speed in a forwards direction. If I press the J key, it will do the normal speed, but it reverses it, and K just stops the action. So let's just go back to the end then, and let's have a look at how I would just rip out a little bit of footage here onto the timeline that I need from this source tape viewer. So let's press the L key. I'm then going to press I, which marks an in point. I'm going to let it roll for a second or two, and then press O and K just to stop it. And now I've got a tiny little bit of footage selected with I and O, and I can press F9 and bring that down into the timeline. So I've got that little bit of footage at the beginning there, which is where I will do a voiceover that talks about where you can park. I'm just going to scrub right to the beginning, and now I'm going to repeat that process using the I key, the O key to mark in and out points, and then F9 to drop that little snippet of footage onto the timeline. I'll just speed this up. In the final version, here I go, I'm going to speed it up considerably so you're not sitting there just watching me do this. So I've ended up with a rough cut there of actually 2 minutes and 52 seconds. So whenever I'm doing a rough cut, I always put too much in, knowing that I'm going to chop it down considerably. Now I'm going to just pop back over onto the cut page and show you how I use that to really start bringing this down to like my 40 to 60 second video that I've got in my mind. So let's have a look here on the cut page then. And again, I'm not going to explain all the cut page or all the bits and pieces that are going on the cut page, but I find this so useful. It took me a while to get my head around it. And the one big thing that you can't do, or you couldn't do, they may have changed it, is you can't zoom on the cut page. You're kind of like just there. I'm pretty sure that you can go, oops, no, home and end you can't even do. So this is just giving you like an overview of the cut page at the top, the whole lot. And then underneath, as you scrub across, you can see that you've got the footage playing in the preview window as represented down here. So what I'll then start to do is go, okay, let's have a look at this first bit. Is that too long? Do I need less on that? And I'm also considering that I'm going to do a voiceover on this because I didn't do any commentary when I'm filming. So I'm just considering that as I'm having a look through this footage. So I'm thinking about what I'm going to be saying here as I'm watching the footage and whether I need to just pare it back a little bit. So if you want to cut something out, and you can see there's a fair bit going on here, Dawn walks across there. Let's say I don't want all of this lot here. I just want to start maybe say from there, right? So down on the actual footage down at the bottom here, if I can see it there, yeah, you can see I've got these little markers here. I'm just going to... Now, it's really important that you understand the difference between that symbol and this one, because when I'm pulling this one across to the right now, if you look at the top right of the screen, it's actually showing me how I'm clipping that footage, which is really good. So this is where Dawn walks across, and oops, I just want to get back to that point. Where was it? Yeah, there it is. Find this symbol again and keep pulling it across to the right, and that's where it's going to jump from this piece here. So if I just play that, it'll go straight from the traffic into that park now. So it's effectively cut all of that footage out. It's a really nice way of editing. I really enjoy the simplicity of it once I've got my head around it. It's probably rushing around that corner a little bit, so I'm just going to pull it over to the right and drop it there, and then have a look at that. So you can see it's got a representation at the top. So there's the little bit as I'm looking at the water, bang, ups, and then I need to cut that out. Just did a little reveal there. So again, I'm just going to pull over here, looking at the top right corner, and I'll probably start it from there. So walk around the corner, boom, over to the, looking over the water there. Little bit of footage of a jet ski. Let's say I'm quite happy with, let's say I just wanted this little bit here. It's got a bit of a bounce, walk bounce in it, that footage has. So let's just take that back over here. Oops, have I gone too far? No, I haven't. There we go. This is what can happen with a cut page if you're not careful. I've got the actual camera, the camera that's recording me in the way of the timeline, so I'm kind of peering over it. So we'll go to there. Let's say we just wanted to get it to there. So I'll go and pull that in to there. And that's looking okay. And then we've got the walking bit. I want to talk about, you know, how hot it can actually be when you're walking over. So I've got a little bit of footage that does that. This is the first view of the house, so I'll leave all of that in. And then this is one of the most recent walking bridges that's been built in Brisbane. I think it's been open probably 18 months, 2 years, something like that. And it's a little, the Breakfast Creek Bridge, it's called. So I want to leave that footage rolling for a little bit, see if I'll get rid of that bounce with some stabilization later. but I'll leave that rolling because I want to do a bit of explaining about that bridge and its history and the history of the site, etc. So I'll leave that all in there. And then of course we're on to Newstead House. So we're getting into the place here. I'll explain here that we're actually just walking around the outside, that it was closed, and I will go back on a subsequent day and get more of it. Don't need any more than that to say that. So about there. So, and the other thing as well is if I want to, I can do exactly the same thing on the top here. Bring it back to the playhead, and I think that's going to look quite decent. So not too long of a walk up to the house before we cut into the footage of the veranda at the front there. And then I'll just go to the left hand side there and I'll leave it there, and again I'm going to use this bit at the top to do that. Then we're looking around the side here, and I want to do some research then on these trees, because there was just an unusual, I don't know what it's, a seed or a pod or whatever, but it's just unusual. I don't actually know much about them, so I'm going to do some research on those and do a voiceover that explains what they're about. Now I'm going to leave a fair bit of that footage in there because it's nice. You've got the bridge just in the background there, and I might need to do a bit of explaining about what that all is, but that should suffice. So I'm sitting on the clip there and there, and you see this little gizmo here. If I just slide that to the left, what you can see it's actually doing is it's moving along the path more towards the bandstand, and I'm basically slipping it so that I'm changing what part of that clip is being shown. And as you can see, as I slide it more and more to the left, I'm moving more and more down towards the bandstand. And I just want to include this because it will give it's a nice thing to show people, and also it will give a bit of an indication of where it was that I was filming from. You can see it's quite long, so I'm just going to speed it up a little bit there. Here we go. We're more or less down, and there was actually a there was somebody just doing some of their what looked like their native dance routine in the bandstand itself. Here we go. I'm zooming out to the side again, and I'm getting there slowly, and let's just see what that looks like now. Didn't want that massive pan across to it. I'm going to have to do a bit more work on this, so I'm just going to slide it over a bit more so that we see it there like that. Let's just see what that looks like. Now, to give me a little bit more of that, I can obviously, in the cut page, I can do this. He says. It's not allowing me to do that for some reason. Oh, there we go. So I can shove it over that way a little bit, which obviously eats into this footage a little bit. So let's just see what that looks like now. Yeah, that's looking after that. We're down at the bandstand, we're having a look around. Yeah, that's okay. Maybe I'll just pull that lot back a little bit. We don't need all that much in it. And boom, having a bit of a pan around. Whoops, there's a piece there that we don't need, so I'll just delete that. Just general sort of scenery type of stuff here. Along here though, there is a walkway, and I just want to talk a little bit about that walkway and how you can almost get all the way into Brisbane using that riverside walkway. The house there, final shots of the house. There was a little bit of footage that's crept in there, so I'll just delete that. Final shots of the house. Do we need all that? Let me just have a look. I think I got this twice because Dawn undid her bottle and there was a lot of squeaky background noise going on, so we don't actually need that clip. And that one just started a little bit too early, so we'll just bring that one in so that it's about there, and that should give us a nice transition from that. Yeah, it's a bit jumpy. Let's bring it in a bit more. So you can see how this cut page is really good, because if you were doing this in the edit page, right, you've got the edit page here, you've got to come along, this happens by default, so you have to go into one of these tools and make it so that it doesn't happen like that. And then if you want to shorten it, it's just really quite tricky getting these rough cuts done in the edit page. So we'll go up to there and we'll say thank you very much, we don't need any more of that, so we'll drag that one across. There's a little bit of footage crept in there we don't need, we're going to delete that. And then this is the walk back to the car. Do I need that? Probably just need something at the end. Actually, I'll tell you what I do need at the end. At the end, we'll just use the footage that we had at the very beginning. So we'll just drop that back on. And that's me saying, hey, here we are back at the car. And didn't we have a lovely day out at Newstead House? Oops. Now, I did that wrong. So in this case then, I don't want to, what do I want to do? What do I want to do? Do I want to do that? No, I don't. I just want to shorten this. That's it. I got it wrong. I don't know what I was doing there. But I just want to shorten this a little bit so we've gone past that post there in the top right. And I can just then, that will give me enough time just to say, hey, here we are back at the car. And this time I don't need to reverse that footage. I can just play it forward and do a fade out. And that's about it, I think. It's a lot longer than I thought though. So maybe, there we go. There's a piece of footage there that I don't need. But you get the idea. That's how I use the cut page to drum up an initial rough cut for my video. Cut page is a bit tricky to use, but it's well worth spending the time on it. It really is. So now that we've got that rough cut, I want to jump over into the edit page and start doing some fine editing, just sort of refining things down a little bit. So let's do exactly that. Jump over into the edit page. The first thing I'm going to do is reverse this footage at the beginning. Remember, it was me talking about where we were parking the car and I'd forgotten to film it, so I filmed it at the end, and I just want to reverse that so that it looks as though we're walking away from the car. So right click over the clip and go change clip speed and reverse speed, and that should be us walking away from the car. There we go. There's a little bit of walk bounce in that as well, so let's just see, is it worth, I might just try a bit of stabilization on that. So over here, stabilization, and we'll go with doing nothing, accepting all the defaults. I'll just click on stabilize and DaVinci will run through that in record time. It really does it quite fast, that, and that just takes a little bit of that walk bounce out of it. So that's the parking clip. The next thing I just want to start thinking about is what exactly do I want to show. I think it's probably best to leave that little bit in there about the BP, showing the BP. It might be interesting people to see what the price of fuel was back in 2025 when they're looking at this in thousands of years time, maybe, who knows. So that will be okay. Do I need anything else? Do I need to show that busy road? Probably, yeah, I'll leave that in. So you can see I'm just kind of like, I always try and shorten things. I always try and keep things as fast as I possibly can without losing the meaning or the story or interrupting the flow of the story. So do I need... This is just me sort of like, this is us getting there and just showing the walk to the bridge. So I'm going to take this whole lot out here, going to backspace that, and then Alt and Y gets everything to the right of the playhead, and I can just with confidence drag that across. So in the edit screen you never use the delete key. It gives you all sorts of problems. This is the bridge. This is the first look over at Customs House then. So I'm just going to stabilize that because it's got a bit of walk bounce in it, and it's quite a long clip, so DaVinci's taking a little bit longer to stabilize that for me, but even so it still seems to do it in really record time. And that's just about done. And now, yeah, it's not done a great deal of job on that. And I need to have a look at the, oops, is that a finger in the footage? And it certainly is, yeah. So I just want to get rid of that. I'll just cut around that, oops. And backspace, Alt and Y, drag across, just cut that gap out. Let's see what that looks like. Is it noticeable? Yeah, there's a little bit of a jump cut in that. There's an effect in this new version, so we're going to have a look at it. Let me just think of its name. 1 second. Yeah, I got it. It's called Smooth Cut, and I've used it in the past, and it's done a fairly decent job. But it's supposed to do an absolutely fantastic job of these jump cuts. So where you've got a piece of footage like that where I've got a jump in it, I'm just going to put a smooth cut on that and see what it does. Let's have a look. Sometimes it's a little bit difficult to see these things, how they're actually going to look with until you've got the finished clip, until you've got it rendered out and you can actually view it. So I'll leave that in there. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about the bridge, so I'll leave this playing. It is a relatively new bridge, so it's worth just talking a little bit about it. Just watching all this through again just to make sure that, yeah, I could probably just get rid of a little bit of that on the end there. Drag across. So you can see I'm just kind of looking at ways of actually reducing the amount of footage, because you know, if you just keep playing things, people will lose interest, and you want to produce stuff that's keeping people engaged, basically. So just cut a little bit out of that there. Let's have a look how that plays. Yeah, that's all right. Don't really want to go any further than that, so I can now, what's happened here? Oh, there we go. Just go Alt and Y again. You know, you can do the old ripple delete, but I tend not to use it too much because I use the cut page to get that that first initial track laid down, and then I just use this where I just use Alt and Y to bring all the footage across that's to the right of the playhead, and that seems to work quite well for me. Here's all the footage of the trees happening, these strange trees with this strange fruit or whatever it is hanging off them. Still need to do the research on that. Okay, what's going on here? So we can leave all that in, because I think there'll be a fair bit of narration over that. Do I need all this walk-in stuff? I don't think so. I think we might just come over here a little bit. I have X and Z keys programmed for zoom in the edit, so it's that really helps me to speed things up when I need to zoom in a little bit. Alt and Y again, just pull, select everything to the right of the playhead, and there we go, towards the bandstand. Having a little look around there. I don't think I need that. I'm going to get rid of that. I don't normally use the delete key, and I did then. It did the it closed the gap up for me. I don't use the delete key. It's not a good idea to use the delete key in the edit window in DaVinci Resolve, and the reason is it will delete things under everything underneath the playhead. It will just mess with, say, if you've got a music track on there or if you've got some B-roll. It's really quite destructive. So generally speaking, instead of deleting something, I always hit the backspace key and then I just close up the gap manually. Of course, I've done a lot of that work in the cut page in the previous video, which means that you don't have to do a great deal of it here. I might just bring that in a little bit. You can actually do a similar thing in the edit page that you can in the cut page by putting the trim mode on, I think it is. Is that the one? Yep. So you can actually do that. But you have to switch it on. It's not there by default. So I kind of like just use the cut page for everything, all the rough cuts. Nice shot of the house. Again, final one, and then there we are walking back to the car. I'll just put that trim edit on again, and I might just bring that in a little bit to cut a bit out of that. Hopefully that will just give me enough to finish off the narration. And we're down to 2 minutes and 24. Still seems quite long, but there it is. I think that's probably about as much as that I can cut out of it without destroying the story and covering all the things that I want to cover. I mean, the other thing I could do with this footage here of the trees, where has it gone? You know, I could actually just do a freeze frame on that there, say for instance, and just talk as much as I want about that. But it's much more interesting, I think, just to have something, you know, you're just panning around or spinning around something. Having something that's actually moving is always going to be better than something that's static. It just helps to maintain that visual interest. I reckon I could just shave that back a tiny bit. And maybe just shave a little bit off the front of that. Yeah, so I'm trying to be really quite critical about how long the footage is and what's contained in it. Now, I don't need all of that. So we'll close that up a little bit. Whoops. And there you go. I think I've got that down now to just over a couple of minutes, which is pretty good. And what I'm going to do now is start playing it with volume, and then I'm going to put some music to it. So let's have a look at that in the next little clip.